From sustainable living to decision making, to how women are leading change across industries. Today, on the Dot series, we're going to talk about what it really means to build communities with purpose with Nadine Zidani. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. You're one of the most leading women in this industry today, and we're so glad to have you on our podcast to know more about your industry. You've built such dynamic ecosystem with MENA Impact, and we want to know more about the P Corp, B Corp certifications, your consultation for global brands, and also about your green skills programs that you've offered for such people that are interested, and also about your podcast. What was the turning point that actually made you get into this development and more into sustainability and so forth?
Hi, Sarah. First of all, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's so nice to be here and meeting you. I'll try to make it a short story. How it started, actually, it was back in 2020. I lost my job because of the pandemic. But it was not, it was really good. You know, I'm really grateful that it happened because I was not feeling a real sense of alignment and very fulfilled by my job. Although on paper, you know, everything looked great. And it triggered a deep reflection on my side about, you know, what do I want to do? How can I make an impact? And especially that at that time, you know, although I was working in the corporate world, I was very invested into the nonprofit sector, working with, you know, NGOs. And that, you know, brought a lot of joy, fulfillment, you know, into my life. 100%, you know, how come, you know, my 40 hours a week, you know, job was not as fulfilling as spending 2 hours, you know, with an association working on something meaningful for the society. And that also triggered like a deep reflection on what is NGO, nonprofit, the only path to create, you know, valuable social value, or is there another way? And this is how I discovered the space in between traditional business and the nonprofit sector, where actually businesses can also drive meaningful impact to the society and our environment. And this is how my entrepreneurship journey and how MENA Impact was born.
Lovely. I love that you actually found passion with NGOs, because I love how it's more of a service for the audience and for the public than for themselves. And this is something that's so interesting to actually look at. When we talk about communities and impact, you talk about sustainability a lot. And I just wondered, for people that are foreign to this subject, why would someone be sustainable? And what are the key elements that could make someone feel connected and empowered, aligning to the environment and sustainability?
It's a very good question because we tend to be very passionate in this sector, and the way we frame it is not very inclusive. So I would say for me, sustainability is more about how we live than just what we believe. And a couple of years ago, I was in Saudi Arabia for an event, and I met William McDonough. He's an architect and a circular economy pioneer.
Interesting.
And he said something that was very surprising, but also shaped my narrative when it comes to sustainability. He said to me, we shouldn't make sustainability an ethical issue, you know, about saving the planet, you know, and this type.
Because this is what crosses my mind. That's true.
Most of the time, this is how we do it. And that triggers a lot of guilt and shame, you know, and I'm doing good things, you're bad. So it kind of polarized people. Instead, he said, don't make it, you know, an ethical issue, make it a quality of life problem. And that completely shifts, you know, the narrative.
Your mentality, yes.
Exactly. But even with you, you know, because you care about your quality of life. You care about the air you breathe. You care about, you know, your lifestyle. So then, you know, we put people in the narrative, and they're not just, you know, byproduct of sustainability. So that kind of shifts my mentality. And when you think about, I'll give you just one example, water. We talk a lot about the fact that our region, the MENA region, is one of the most water-scarce region in the world. So it's the biggest threat for us. So if I just talk about it in terms of the environment, you know, with all the technicalities behind it, you feel excluded. But if I tell you the lack of water is going to affect your health, the food you eat, your basic dignity, And
Yeah.
the fact that just as humans, we can't live without water.
That's true. You start taking it into consideration. That's
Exactly.
true.
Then you're going to start thinking about, okay, so what can I do? How can I be part of this movement? And it's closer to you. And same for climate change. The summers are hotter, especially here in the UAE. We see extreme weather patterns. So same, it's going to affect your quality of life, and then it becomes your problem.
That's very true, by the way, because a little bit of story time from my side as well. When I did psychology back in my days, there's a small tactic in psychology where they tell you do not shame someone when you want to encourage them to do something, because that's just going to let them corner themselves instead of actually being encouraged to do something.
Yeah.
So I love your new approach, I guess, or what you learned is about encouraging people to do something better or becoming positive, and that's how you get the community to actually gather with each other. Lovely. Since you've worked on so many regions across the GCC, from governments to startups, you've really seen how this region is basically becoming a hub for purpose-driven change, specifically in the UAE, quite frankly. When you think about the real estate industry here in the UAE, where do you see the biggest opportunities for not just to support these goals, but actually lead the way forward? And by goals, I mean the SDGs in our region. Can you tell us more about SDGs and how they can actually impact our region?
It's a big question.
It is a bit too long.
No, let me perhaps start by the SDGs, just to give a little bit of context.
Absolutely, please do.
The SDGs have been defined by the United Nations back in 2015. It's 17 goals with a lot of targets to reach, and the main goal is to achieve them by 2030. So keep in mind that we're in 2025.
There's like 5 years left.
5 years. To date, we only achieved 17% of the SDGs. 17. So we are far, far away.
A bit too much?
Yeah. And actually it's stagnating. The past few years, I always see the same report from the United Nations saying 17%. So not major progress. When it comes to real estate, I think number one, it's a huge industry. It's a huge sector for the UAE. I think it's almost 7% of the UAE's GDP. So it's a major contributor to the economy of the UAE.
Absolutely.
What can we do? I think we have a couple of things we could do. First one on the decarbonization.
Yes.
We know that the UAE aims to achieve net zero by 2050. And buildings are a major contributor to emissions and energy use. I think 1/3 of the energy use and carbon output comes from buildings.
Yeah.
So it has a huge impact. So what we can do, I believe, is think of the way we design the buildings, how we can make them energy efficient, how we can use renewable energies, how we can use smart systems, that can really help us to manage the energy and aim for each new project, especially in our region, very dynamic in the real estate industry, the UAE and the GCC.
It's diverse.
Super. Yeah, and a lot of new projects, coming up. So how can we aim for net zero operational carbon for each project by design?
Yes.
So we don't have to think about it, in a couple of years along the line when we will have more regulations.
Funny enough, since you mentioned the 2050 vision here in the UAE, they've already initiated a city called Masdar City. And Masdar City's purpose is to actually push and initiate sustainability and social sustainability with the people. They actually work on having the solar systems interacted. They work on having the emissions, sorry. the emissions of carbon as well. It's lovely because they've already started, but I think people are just not aware of it and people are not too encouraged to do it yet. I think people should start but the companies, they should start encouraging people to go forward for such cities, because it's not just for the country, it's for the quality of your life, as you said, which is wonderful to think about. It's just, and funny enough, statistics of the people that are actually buying in this place, it's mostly locals. The locals, Emiratis of the UAE, are more interested into saving their environment and their own quality of lives, and that's why they are purchasing such smart designs, as you mentioned. Moving on to our next question, and I know I'm jumping from one topic to another, but I really want to touch on how women are in leadership nowadays, because that's who you are. and something I completely appreciate and absolutely love as well. Women, for so long, have been traditionally underrepresented. What more can be done, structurally or culturally, to support the growing momentum of women leading with purpose?
Um, I think a lot can be done. We made huge progress. I'm not going to say that it's not the case. And when we again look at the data, if I think about, there is one, for me, there is one data that I found very interesting is the STEM graduates. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Nice.
We have in the UAE the highest rates of women as STEM graduates. It's one of the highest rates in the world. So we don't have we have the capacity to actually push them into those more traditionally male-dominated technical sectors. But the thing is that after graduation, when they enter the workforce, they are not well represented in leadership. So I think it's not an educational issue, but more about how do we transition those women from being high, well represented, women in education to being, at leadership positions in those sectors. And this is where, the gap exists. And I think there is another fact about sustainability. I mean, a sector in which, I'm working, I think we are very, very attracted to sustainability. I don't have data, but you cannot imagine the number of women I've met in the past few years since I launched MENA Impact. There is a lot of women, and I think naturally, perhaps, and my perception again, I don't have data to back that, but the fact that we can lead with empathy, we can have more collaboration, we can think long term, we can really be ourselves in a way. I think it's very, very, very interesting. What we can do, I have a couple of ideas, a couple of things in mind.
Please share with me.
I think the first one is the young girls. We need to show to very young women that they have infinite possibilities in front of them. And I think it starts really young, because the more you expose them to, women in STEM, as I said, in AI, in very different, industries, you open up, the field of possibilities for them. So very important. Another thing is how we can create spaces that are inclusive to women. We talk a lot about the diversity, the quotas, the number of women, especially, in ESG, environmental, social, and governance. But what about the spaces, can I have a voice at the table? Am I heard? Is my intuition, something we talked about, before the recording, is it valued? What I'm really bringing as a woman to the table. So I think we really need to think about how to create those inclusive spaces. And lastly, simple, buy the services and the products from women-led businesses. Invest into women-led businesses.
Support them.
Hire them, support them, work with them, collaborate with them. We need to give them access to opportunities they don't have usually access to. Contracts, investment, funding, all of that is extremely important if you really want to push forward the agenda of women.
One thing you said that I completely agree with is that you need to support and give exposure to all of the options to a woman ever since she becomes a girl. The moment a girl starts growing, knowing she has power and she has the opportunity to explore more options or become even successful, that's when dreams become valid, which I think is amazing. And I think also another thing that specifically here in our region, we are luckily enough, I'd say, that the government or other things, such entities or private entities and so forth, they give those opportunities to little girls since they were basically toddlers, which is amazing.
Just on that, you're absolutely right. And another fact about women, they are very attracted to entrepreneurship. And especially, I think the number, I don't have in mind the number in the UAE, but it's really high, the number of women entrepreneurs we have in the country. So, and I think that tells us also I think one of the elements why we have so many women entrepreneurs is the flexibility that entrepreneurship gives into women's life.
Absolutely.
Women are most of the time caregivers, mothers, and they need the flexibility that sometimes the traditional organizations, private or public, do not really give them.
Absolutely, I agree.
So that's another thing also to keep in mind, how we can be more flexible in the environment we build and take into account the priorities of women.
So she can ace both worlds, basically.
Exactly.
I agree. Moving on to how people get influenced nowadays. There's a growing shift towards conscious decision making, specifically in this region. Whether it was through social media, through work, our peers, it all influences the way we eat, the way we work, the way we function, even. What does investing with purpose personally mean to you? And how does it basically influence you and influence your surroundings?
When I think about investing, I think of three things: the risk, the return, the financial return, and the performance. We don't usually take into account impact. And this is where my definition of investing with purpose comes actually with impact. So of course I want to make money, and everybody wants to make
Everyone
money.
does, right?
That's not a question. But can we make money while creating a meaningful, measurable impact on people and the society at large, and minimizing the risks? And I think that's the element, in this, as you said, conscious investment, wave is we want to take into consideration all the parameters, and it's not only maximizing, shareholder profit and thinking about how can I make money at the expense.
It's not just about ROI, basically.
Yeah, it's more than just ROI, actually. And you mentioned at the beginning about B Corp. So this is why I do believe in frameworks or standards like B Corp. And MENA Impact is a certified B Corp. It's basically a movement of businesses using business as a force for good. Okay. So believing that business is not only here to generate profit, though it's super important, otherwise it's not a business, it's a non-profit, as we said at the beginning. But at the same time, it creates a value for our environment and people and the society at large. And I like that. I really like that, because then investing is more than just, I put money somewhere and I expect a high return. I put money, but I also think what kind of society I want to invest in.
Yes.
So more than just a project, more than just a company, how this company is shaping the society, the world I want to live in.
It's not just financial investment.
Exactly.
It's also the quality of where you're living, the community, people around you. That's a very smart way to look at it, because nowadays people just care about where the location is and how much more money I can make after 3 years. So it makes sense. For instance, if you have kids, if you have a family, it would be lovely to be around people that have families and kids and well-educated people. So it makes so much sense as well that your investment is more sentimental than financial only. What advice would you give someone that wants to make a more meaningful investment?
I think you said it, Sarah, about the communities. I would say think carefully about the communities you want to invest in as much as the property, itself.
Absolutely.
And you just said it, when we invest, when I think about even myself, years ago when I did my first real estate investments, what I was thinking of is basically the location, the finishes of, the property, and the price.
Yeah. The main factor.
Exactly. This is what everybody, I believe, in the real estate world focuses on. But what about thinking about? No, I want also to think about the community I'm investing in, because it will generate a higher return in the long term. So think about the kind of developers of companies you want to work with. Are they transparent about their environmental and social impact? What do they do to build resilient communities and not just building? How do they use water, energy? Do they have smart systems in place? Do they think beyond the building itself? And do they invest in the people who will be living there? So all of that is also good in terms of financial return.
Absolutely.
Because it's a more long-term view. You have highest quality standards. build buildings that are better adapted to potential future regulations, and also you protect the value of your asset on the long term. So I think it really makes sense when you think about, let's say, the business case of more conscious, impactful investments. And I'll say, just like, uh, think about, again, the society you want to live in, and what you're investing in, and how it can shape, the society and the kind of community you want to live in.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people, when they come to look for places they want to invest in, they don't really think about the community or the society that's going to actually inhabit this place that they're going to invest in. So that's a wonderful way to look at it. And I hope people take it in consideration moving forward.
Another element about that I didn't mention is the 20-minute city in Dubai. Last year, Dubai, announced that they want to join, a global movement of cities building what we call a 20-minute city. So meaning that you have everything you need at 20-minute walk or cycling, and this is where we come back to the community. How we can not only think about the building, but what's the lifestyle I will
Exactly.
have with this property. Do I have schools? Do I have access to healthcare? Can I do my grocery shopping? Can I just go
It
to
matters because
all
you
of
don't
that
wanna you don't wanna
matters.
live in a place where you're deserted just because you want
No.
great ROI.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense.
And that's impacts sustainability at the end of the day. We mentioned about emissions. So if people, use less their cars, it will have an impact on us reaching net zero by 2050. And, it's a whole, circle
Absolutely.
that suddenly, your investment has a huge impact when you think about it.
That's true. And speaking of what Dubai has done, a few days ago, they just actually announced that they're supporting people in this new generation to actually invest in specific places. So it just seems like to me that they are also investing into having better communities where youngsters can now invest and actually live amongst each other. So I hope by the time it's 2050, we can have that 0% carbon emission and people are actually combined into a better community where we actually take sustainability into consideration. Because I think that's what matters the most, to have the best quality of life.
100%.
Thank you so much, Nadine. It was
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure to talk to you today, and your insights, they were lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for giving access to such platform to women entrepreneurs in the UAE. It means a lot. Thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely.